as skilled professionals and policy actors contributing directly to education, health, climate resilience, and economic empowerment. And when George and I met today, I was just telling him that he should try, because when we met in Kenya, one of the exchanges that we had was how quickly Sierra Leone can have an exchange visit to Ghana to understudy their youth entrepreneurship programs and as well as the youth capacity of skill development drive they are doing. And we are really pleased that we've gone far with that. Hopefully when he goes back, please plead with him now so I can expedite my invitation. The reason being, colleagues, Ghana has expanded or excelled a whole lot to a point that they are even now exporting some of these skills overseas. And I want to encourage all of you that our predicaments are shared, but the solutions are within the context of our region. So we just need to leverage on the opportunities that we have. We don't need to look no further. Let us, even in this room, see how best we can create the synergies. The third point is partnership and accountability. Governments, youth organizations, UN agencies, private sector partners, and donors must commit to predictable funding, clear legal frameworks, and rigorous monitoring so youth initiatives scale responsibly and sustainably. We welcome collaboration that aligns national priorities with regional and global programs and ensures measurable results. The initiative we launched today is designed to put these priorities into practice. It will mobilize and deploy young volunteers across critical sectors where they can make immediate, measurable differences in classrooms, clinics, climate-affected communities, and peace-building efforts. But programs alone are not enough. Success requires political will, sustained investment, and an unwavering commitment to listen to young people as co-designers and leaders. Colleagues, this can only be achievable, one, if we don't fail to get ourselves involved into where the decisions are made. When we allow mediocrity to take precedence over excellence, then what we get is just rotten eggs and bad results. But George and I are opportune today because we didn't sit at the back. We pull ourselves to the front, and then the opportunities were there. We leveraged the opportunities, and here we are today. So I want to use the opportunity to encourage all of you. And as much as we are advocating for us to be not just consumers, but also creators of whatever our predicaments are, it's also about fitting for you to know that nobody is going to call you when you're in the kitchen. You have to be in the forefront, and then you'll be called. Then, but I've already spoken about that. So the youth in this room, that's just how I say it now. Your innovations, your volunteerism, and your leadership are the levers of change. I invite you to hold us accountable and to bring forward ideas and to partner at every stage from design to delivery to evaluation. In closing, let us move from promise to progress. Let us invest in inclusion, and let us go far. Turn to your neighbor and look at him or her. Tell him or her that our solution is in our hands. Nelson Mandela, who popularized the saying, had this to say that every man is a master of his own fate and a carrier of his own destiny. Africa, wherever we are in the Commonwealth, the things that it behooves us right now are the solutions that we see. But all we need is cohesive collaboration, intentional and clear-cut approaches. And let us just see ourselves that we are the ones that we're waiting for. And together, we'll surely ensure that one Africa, one unites, and by 2030, we'll make promise to progress as a national movement. Thank you. Please, I have to go on. I'm even late for my next meeting. Please direct all my questions to George. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I was just about to say, indeed, our solutions are in our hands, but our questions are in our minds and they are burning. So if there are any questions from the House right now, whilst we'd like to direct them to the Honorable quickly, I would give a floor to 2 people. Okay, I have one hand there and another there at the back. Please try to keep them short. I'll keep a timer of 2 seconds. I'm like 2 minutes. I'll keep a timer of 2 minutes. We'll keep a time of 2 minutes, and then after that we'll go back to our addresses, and then we'll come back again to a message of solidarity, and then to the address by South Africa. So, yes.
All right.
Please just, introduce yourself, and you can proceed.
Thank you so much. I'm Dennis, the UNESCO Intercultural Youth for Peace Fellow and a PhD candidate at Tsinghua University. I come from Liberia, by the way.
Yeah, where are you from?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's African thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that my brother from the Pan-African Youth League is here as well. I mean, it was one of the very questions I was hoping to ask. Africa's youth population is a huge resource. But again, like our resources, it would be a blessing or curse. And he rectified that in a previous meeting. I mean, oftentimes when we advocate for youth allocations, we tend to forget about, also advocating that we augment youth strength to receive allocations. I mean, this is part of one of the advocacy we made in Sevilla, Spain, to advocate for more funding for young people. But one of the huge challenges is that the vast majority of the youth are not able to prepare to receive that resource. I'll give you one good example. In Liberia, the African Youth Entrepreneurship Bank has been launched with 17 million. It will surprise you that a bulk of the young people who have businesses, they have the business plan but don't have the collaterals to put for those loans and other things. So my own question to the Honorable Minister is, what are some of the mechanisms that Ghana is putting in place so that youth don't just see allocations, but they are also able to receive those allocations with the proper resources for business? Yeah.
Thank you. The last question is
I'll just start so you can see. So my name is Pedro. I am a student at the University of Ottawa. I am Nigerian, and I do a lot of undergraduate research with regards to organization and youth empowerment. And I have two questions, or two comments. So the first one is about youth political representation and youth representation generally around the continent. In a lot of countries, to varying degrees, you do have youth representation, however it is limited. You have the vast majority of members of national assemblies, members of Senate being of older ages. And while this is representation of the population in different African countries, it is difficult to pinpoint the problems of youth if youth aren't in the positions where they can highlight the specific problems. So I would like to ask what work can be done to further youth representation in official spaces. My second question is with regards to diversification of investments. There is a lot of focused investments on infrastructure, a lot of focused investments on IT, financial technology, cybersecurity, but there are fewer investments in a lot of upcoming industries like clothing manufacturing. You see a lot of countries starting up fashion houses, makeup brands. Tourism is another big opportunity for investing for a lot of African countries, sports as well. However, those sectors don't receive as much funding as the aforementioned sectors I previously talked about. So what opportunities are there for those sectors, for investments in those sectors, especially since a lack of investment in those sectors means we risk losing that capacity and we risk losing those people to other countries and other regions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. I've noted down 3 questions. We'll move along with the statements, the delivering of key statements, and probably you might even find your answers in the statements. So we'll see whether you'd still like to keep them or whether you'd like to withdraw them at the end. Moving on with our program, I'd like to now move over to an address by Honorable Steve Baseka Letsike from South Africa to deliver the remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, distinguished ministers, representatives of governments, Commonwealth Youth Council and its leadership, representative of UNESCO, Pan-African youth formations, and most importantly, young people of the world. I feel honored to join you in this session, having had the opportunity in my other life. I've shared the Commonwealth Equality Network for 2 terms, and that has seen significant progress over time. So being invited here is almost like a coming home for me. But I must say that we are convening not only just as delegates, but as inheritors of a long and unfinished struggle that has always found its sharpest expression in the courage, defiance, and imagination of young people. This gathering itself reflects a growing global recognition that youth-led action is not symbolic, but central to the delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly as we march the final stretch towards 2030. In 2026, this year, in my country, South Africa, we are marking the Golden Jubilee, 50-year anniversary of the 16th June 1976 Youth Uprising, under the theme, Empowered Youth, a Nation at Work. But to speak of 1976 is not simply to recall a moment. It is to evoke a generation that refused to be taught in a language of their oppression, confronted a brutal state with nothing but conviction, then altered the trajectory of history. But we must also locate 1976 within a broader continuum of our struggle to liberation of all society. The youth of Soweto were not an isolated phenomenon. They were part of a long tradition of youth activism within African National Congress, from the formation of African National Congress Youth League in 1944 to the waves of young volunteers who joined movements in exile, in underground structures, and in mass democratic formations. Many of those who carried the struggle forward were young. They were students, they were workers, they were organizers who understood that history does not move on its own. It is pushed forward. Their sacrifices were rooted in the vision of Freedom Charter, which asserted that the doors of learning and culture shall be open, a principle that continues to anchor our democratic project. And so 1976 was not just an uprising. Colleagues, it was a signal to the world that young people are not passive recipients of the future. They are the architecture of the future. So today the terrain of struggle has shifted, Program Director. And then the struggle was against, at the time, the apartheid political oppression. Today's struggle is against the economic exclusion, the inequality, and the unfinished business of dignity. And the struggle is not equally and just a South African struggle. Across the global south, from the township of South Africa to the streets of Lagos, the Fraser streets of Brazil, the informal settlements of Nairobi, and the migrant corridors of Asia, young people are navigating the same structural dynamics and reality. Unemployment, inequality, climate vulnerability, and digital disruption. So in this context, youth development must be understood as a global public good, requiring coordination, international response, policy alignment, and sustained investment. So the questions that were posed as I walked in and I listened carefully are talking to these issues. Where are the young people? The young people stand at the crossroads, a demographic dividend on the one hand and a developmental risk on the other hand. The difference between the two is not demographic, it is political, it is economic, it is structural. In South Africa, youth unemployment remains high, with millions of young people excluded from the economy. It's systematic. And you see these expressions in SDGs. You see these expressions in the African Union Charter. You see these expressions in our national development agendas. So the question before us is not whether young people should be involved in development. It is whether our systems are prepared to relinquish control, to ensure that we redistribute opportunity and reimagine power. This includes strengthening structured platform for youth participation, from national youth policies to global mechanisms such as the ECOSOC Youth Forum, ensuring that youth voices translate into policy influence and into implementation. At the same time, we must confront a growing and coordinated global pushback against equality itself. Across the region, we witness the rise of a well-resourced anti-gender movements that seeks to roll back hard-won gains on gender equality, sexual and reproductive health and rights, and the exclusion of LGBTI community. These movements are masqueraded as defenders of culture, tradition, family, but in practice, they work to narrow democratic spaces and exclude young people in their diversity. So we must be honest. As we're going to gather here, we must speak truthfully. When we speak of young people, we are not going to divide young people and select which young person matters most. All young people equally are important. And this is why economic inclusion must be understood not as a welfare intervention, but as a matter of justice. It's about converting historic sacrifices into present opportunity, ensuring that the freedom won politically is realized economically and is moving from uprising to ownership. We have done so in South Africa, deliberately building pathways to enable this transition. Our president has initiated the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention. We connected millions of young people to opportunities, building an ecosystem that removes barriers to entry, including through digital platform, what we call the SA Youth.mobile. Through our National Youth Service and the agency, National Youth Development Agency, we are positioning volunteerism not as charity, but a structured pathway into skills, work, and entrepreneurship. So this aligns to the broader global commitment and continental effort. So including the work that is being done around Commonwealth Volunteer Programme and the African Union Youth Volunteer Corps, we seek to mobilize young people across sectors such as climate change, climate action, health, education, peace building, and economic empowerment. These are not isolated programs, they are part of a broader effort to reposition young people as economic actors, as producers, innovators, and builders of the future. So I want to really say, Program Director, the ethos of 1976 demands agency, but it also demands discipline. It calls on young people not only to resist exclusion, but to build alternatives, create enterprises, drive innovation, shape policy, and organize within your own communities. But it also calls on states and my fellow colleagues who are here that global institutions should not only just listen, but act decisively in distributing and redistributing in particular opportunity, but also most importantly, dismantling structural barriers. We have this responsibility. So just let me end this. A few days ago, we were reminded by the words of Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu, a young freedom fighter, barely in his early 20s, who joined the liberation struggle as a part of a generation of youth who refused to accept injustice as permanent. arrested in 1977 and sentenced to death by the apartheid regime, he faced execution with unwavering clarity of purpose. On the eve of his death in 1979, he left us with words that continue to echo across generations. And he said, "My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom," close quote. These were not simple words of defiance, they were generational instruction that freedom is never the end of a struggle. It is the beginning of a responsibility. The question we have before us as the youth of today is whether we are prepared to nurture that tree, not only to preserve its roots, but to ensure that its fruits are shared equitably amongst all young people. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, dear youth and young leaders, on behalf of the Pan-African Youth Union, let me first thank the Commonwealth Youth Council for organizing this important side event and for being a strong partner to the Pan-African Youth Union. Young people are not just part of the SDGs, we are a key force to make them move faster. Across Africa, young people are already taking action. We create business, we bring new ideas, we use digital tools, and we support our communities every day. We are not waiting for change, we are leading it. But to increase our impact, three things are important. First, include young people in decision-making place, and not only to listen to us, but to work with them as a real partner. Second is to support youth-led solutions. Young people need funding, tools, and real opportunity to grow. Third, invest in skills for the future, digital skills, green skills, and businesses, entrepreneurship are key for sustainable development. The Pan-African Youth Union brings together young people from across 54 African countries, and we are mobilizing this generation to take action and deliver real results. We are ready not only to speak, but to act. The future is not tomorrow, we are building it today. Thank you so much.
Short, sweet, and powerful. Thank you for your message of solidarity. I have received news that the Honorable Minister from South Africa would like to be excused. So, Minister, we would like to excuse you. And we'd like to now move forward with our program. The essence of why we're here, I would now like to shine the light upon my chairperson, Mr. Joshua Opey, to just take us through the Commonwealth Youth Volunteer Programme.
Yes, thank you very much, and thanks honorable ministers and National Youth Council leaders that we have present here, regional youth mechanisms that we have present here as well. It's indeed a pleasure to have all of you join us here at this side event that we are hosting together with the government of Sierra Leone, with the support of the government of Ghana as well. The Commonwealth Youth Council, established in 2013 as the official youth mainstreaming mechanism of the Commonwealth. As at then, the Commonwealth was made up of over 60% of the population being young people, and there was the clearer understanding from heads of government that there was the need to set up a youth mainstreaming mechanism. Since then, we've been working hand in hand with stakeholders, especially government, and most importantly, our young people across the Commonwealth, to make sure that we actually work towards achieving youth development priorities. At this point, in the world where we are facing a lot of challenges across the youth development ecosystem, and if you would have listened to the messages from all the honorable ministers, key amongst them, economic inclusion for young people. How do we economically include young people at the same time trying to solve a lot of their issues? And I think one thing that we always highlight is the fact that we need to see youth as high-end solutions and not as problems. And so when you are talking about economic inclusion of young people, it also comes with additional benefits. And for us at the Commonwealth Youth Council, engaging with our stakeholders, one of the key priority areas that we identified was to design and implement a youth volunteer program, which we call the Commonwealth Volunteer Programme, CVP, and that's what I'm going to shed light on today. So we are basically looking forward to mobilize young people across the Commonwealth to become high-end solutions. And I already mentioned about the population dynamics, and of course, if you've been in any of this conversation, you hear about the population. But the problem is that we have young people, their unemployment rate is on the rise, and this affects most of the development priorities, because you have a population that is youthful, and you are not translating it into economically empowered population, and that's like a bigger problem for our countries. And at the same time, in most of these countries, because when you look at the Commonwealth, you have most of these countries where there are like service gaps, that's like critical shortfalls in education. And earlier this year in January, we worked with UNESCO to launch a report on youth participation in education policy. And one of the key understanding is the fact that for most of these countries, there are like deficits in terms of teacher shortages, and we are talking about even like across classrooms, you are not really getting like young people to have access to real services like this. Even in healthcare, across even climate solutions, we are not really getting like requisite resource personnel to drive this kind of processes. We see young people as the solutions to this, and this is what we are presenting as the solution. And what are we talking about with the Commonwealth Volunteer Programme? A structured, time-bound volunteer initiative which we are proposing, and we are recruiting, training young people targeted at age 18 to 35 to deliver frontline services across 5 development sectors, which I'll highlight later. And we are equipping volunteers with verifiable experience credentials. We are already working with UNICEF Generation Unlimited on most of their programs, where you have like young people getting credentials out of different services or different training programs that they are being taken through. So this is verifiable, and we are going to provide credentials as well. And again, we are going to provide like stipends as part of the design of the program. This is basically to get young people ready for the job market, because now most recruiters want entry-level skills, and you cannot get entry-level skills just from the school. You can really get it by getting on the front line and doing something. So this is providing that. So we are looking at 56 countries, looking at a duration of 1 to 2 years, and we are targeting, of course, gender parity, key on this conversation. What are the 5 development sectors? Health, I already mentioned. Under education, we are looking at literacy support, peer teaching, attendance campaigns, out-of-school youth re-engagement. And this is really essential because the out-of-school numbers is going up and up and up as the years go by. And why is this important? It's important because we've been focused so much on enrollment rates that we've really forgotten about the fact that for most of the people who get enrolled, we are not getting them transitioning through the phases of education. And so now we need to catch up and make sure that we get young people who are out of school re-engage back into school or back into sustained pathways that allow them to acquire the requisite literacy skills. So we see young people playing roles in this. And we are talking also about peace and security, which later on you also hear about how the Commonwealth, through the Commonwealth Youth Peace Ambassadors Network, is championing as well. So that's one of the key areas. And also like economically empowering young people, because we see young people as high-end solutions where they can actually provide digital skilling support. And Ghana spoke already, but of course in Ghana you have the 1 Million Coders program, which is running, and these are programs where you can get young people at the front line of it in terms of delivering it, because you have a lot of young people who are already skilled who can actually lead this force through this volunteer program. And once adopted by countries like Ghana, for instance, then it means that such programs could actually be scaled. It's essential to leave a footnote that the Commonwealth Volunteer Program is not like a whole new program that we are integrating, but we are looking forward to leveraging even on existing programmatic actions of countries to then be able to implement and get young people to volunteer in spaces that governments have already started efforts in, or governments and other institutions. So it's not like a standalone program that we are working towards, but it is just a way to get young people to plug onto already existing government pathways. And what are the pathway from service to career? Because basically the whole idea is that we don't want to train experienced volunteers, like people who are experienced just in volunteering. We want to train people who get the experience through volunteering and then translate this experience into sustained livelihood. So we are looking forward to do the 5 pillars of it, which is recruit, train, deploy, certify, and then also lead them into career pathways. So after the recruitment, of course, we are going to train them, and that is talking about technical skills, professional skills, talk about soft skills, and also civic education, because we need to get young people to be patriotic, as our ministers rightly mentioned, and then deploy. So the deployment is cross-cutting. Whilst we look forward to getting strong support from government, we are looking forward to work with non-government organizations as well, and also like health sector partners. And we are looking forward to place young people for a period of 1 to 2 years. In terms of the financing modeling, we are looking forward to get cross-cutting modeling from cross-sector. So some from government, some from private sector as well. And these young people will be certified, and this certification will be backed by our partners, which then means also that it becomes very relevant and easy for these young people to plug onto career pathways in either public service, private sector, and we're also going to create an alumni network. Why is this essential? This is essential because these young people that will be churned out of this volunteering program are already skilled and experienced in real life, practical, on the ground solutions in terms of working. So these are the 5 pillars in terms of pathway. And when we talk about the governance model, how are we setting up this governance model? We are going to set up the Commonwealth Volunteer Programme Secretariat, which will sit with the Commonwealth Youth Council, but then also like incorporate a special purpose vehicle, which is the Commonwealth Leaders Academy. And this would basically focus on program design, standards, quality assurance, and financing. And then also we work with our national authorities, that's the National Youth Councils, and also government representation, to handle recruitment, training delivery, and then the stipend administration. So those ones will be handled at the national level. And then for host government, host organizations, we are looking at government ministries, of course, local authorities, UN agencies across board, non-government organizations, schools, and health facilities. So what's the call to action to finalize? The whole idea is that we have this project that we see it as a game changer. We seek to provide that platform. The idea about multilateral organizations is not that we solve the problem on our own, it's that we provide the platform where countries can contextualize it based on their own needs. And so we provide this as a platform that can accelerate it. So for government, we are happy to see government that will be happy to formally express interest, which we are going to reach out formally to our government partners and member countries of the Commonwealth to express interest in this. And then for donors, we are looking forward to in-principle commitments for the first phase, which we are looking forward to kick off this 2026. And then for private sector as well, we are looking forward to expression of interest for private sector players who are looking forward to host some of these volunteers as well. So that's briefly, at length, is the Commonwealth Volunteer Programme, and happy to take on questions during the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Exciting things, I believe, coming from promise to action, to progress. I would now like to move on to another dimension of our side event, but we are concluding soon. Don't worry, we are coming to the Q's and A's. Just write down those questions or comments, encouragements that you have. We'd now like to give the platform over to the Commonwealth Youth Peace Ambassadors Network. They will be giving us a rundown on what they'll be doing. So on my right there, we have Ms. Kanika and Mr. Fakar. They will be presenting on Saipan, its decade-long existence, and why we should get involved with peace in youth.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ever so energetic youth. SAIPAN stands for Commonwealth Youth Peace Ambassadors Network. I would like to highlight SAIPAN was initially formed in 2015 at Chogam in Malta. Ever since, we have been working towards building peace and reconciliation, and also bringing together our young ambassadors from all 56 Commonwealth countries. What we believe at SAIPAN is if we only measure negative peace, the absence of violence, and if we miss the deeper, we actually miss the deeper work of positive peace, which asks for striking a balance between both the ends. So which is asking the questions, are the institutions fair? Is it trusted? Do young people and women feel included? And do communities have the dignity and opportunity to work together? So these are the questions that needs to be asked. If you ask us, what can youth around the world do together to promote peace? If I had to choose one word, that would be compassion. Peace starts with a smile, but it cannot end there. Peace begins at home, in how we speak to those who disagree, how we treat women and minorities, and how we show up online. To highlight how you as a young person can get involved with Saipan is to sign up for Youth Peace Champion Program, who will be functioning alongside the 56 Commonwealth country ambassadors who represent Saipan, championing for peace across the 56 Commonwealth nations. At Saipan, we wanted to make it easy as possible for any young person with who likes to strive for and contribute towards peace in any way possible. So we have built this platform and made it accessible as possible for all of you. So do follow us in our social media platforms and look out for the opportunities that we post. So last but not least, let's move from promise to progress, progress to action. Thank you very much.
So, as you already know about the Commonwealth Youth Peace Ambassadors Network, I would like to discuss about some initiatives related to XR and artificial intelligence AI for peace building. So as we see today, artificial intelligence and generative AI technologies are very beneficial to foster peace building across globe. So using extended reality, we cannot create immersive virtual spaces where young people from conflict-affected areas connect, collaborate, and understand each other without borders. At the same time, generative AI can support peace building by facilitating inclusive dialogue across languages, generating educational and peace-focused content, helping simulate conflict scenarios for better decision making. Through AI and XR, we can build safe spaces for dialogue, foster empathy through shared experiences, and enable global collaboration in real time. We are not just talking about peace, we are experiencing and shaping it through technology. Coming from the Jammu and Kashmir, a conflict-affected region, I have seen both challenges of instability and the immense potential of youth. And this is why I believe technology is not just a tool for development, it's a tool for peace. Youth are ready to lead through Commonwealth Youth Peace Ambassadors Network. I have seen how young people can become powerful peace builders when empowered with the right tools. Thank you.
Please continue clapping for yourself. All right, we have reached the end of our formal program now. We still have 2 agenda items pending. We have a group picture and then we have the Q&A session, and we want to end by 2:30. So this is how it's going to move. I have 3 questions here that we asked previously. Are there any additional questions? 1, 2, 3. So okay, I think we have questions and things, and I'm afraid that we might not have sufficient time to take, so I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes to Q&A and 10 minutes for the picture and then the agenda.
10 minutes for picture? No.
Yes, because it takes time to align and get this one to show this way, and then it takes time to do that data. That's even less. So if that's it, I'd like to take all of the questions at one round. We answer in one round. If there are still burning issues, then we can network after the photo session. Is that approved by the house?
Yes.
Thank you. So we'll start here and then there. So just keep your hand up like this so I can see you. It's questions to the panelists, right? To the 1 minute, 30 seconds, 30 seconds to a minute. If not, I'll cut you. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, do I start?
Yeah.
Okay, so with the program itself, it's really put together well. My immediate concern comes from the cost of what it would take to implement the program in such countries, things like Ghana, things like countries that are not as well equipped financially in a global context, what would be the return on investment into something like this for the country's GDP, number one. Number two, from a Western culture perspective, where we do have more assets and resources, what can we do to support the other Commonwealth countries, such as Ghana, to be able to implement, to lift everyone up? As they say, rising tides raises all boats. You know, when we're having millions of youth worldwide to have unemployment rate, it's in fact in Canada too. What resources do we need to allocate to other countries to be able to make this work? What will be the return on investment for Canadians and for the other people? Because that's what it's really going to come down to: how much resources it's going to cost and what is the return on investment.
Thank you. I hope we can hold you accountable to what you can contribute.
Sorry, I don't mean to be like that. It's constituents are going to be very hard on you for that one.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for organizing this event. My name is Loretta. I work with the Women and Nations and the United Nations. Joshua, very great presentation. I'm hoping you could share it with the rest of us just so we could look at it. My question goes to you. You see, when we come in spaces like this, I'm always thinking about a young person like who looks like me but isn't necessarily privileged like the rest of us in this room. I would love to think we're very privileged to be here because not so many young people would ever make it to the United Nations. And when I think about programs like the Commonwealth Youth Volunteers Programme, I'm thinking about young people that don't even know how to use a smartphone. We recently had the Commonwealth Youth Summit in Oxford, and I was also again privileged to be part of that because I have access to information. My concern is when you're programming or coming up with programs like this, how do you have these people in mind, young people that are, I would say, invincible, that don't necessarily have access to information? How are you reaching them? Because when we talk about 20 years of the agenda for sustainable development, we're talking about leaving no one behind essentially. And we can't just come here and say, oh, we're leaving no one behind without actually putting these people into our programs deliberately. So I'd love to know if there's any mechanisms that you put in place to also target those young people.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, sir?
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel. My question is...
Just quickly hold some adults and close to the hear. All right. Yes, sir?
My question goes to the Honorable Minister for Ghana.
Okay.
And I'm building on what Dennis said. As we're working towards supporting and financing interventions towards the young people, the question of their capacity to use and utilize properly what finances they're putting is key. So how is your experience in Ghana? How are you going about it? For example, in Uganda, there is a support, an entrepreneurial support that goes to the young people in the grassroots. But to them, you hear them say, this is just a reward from the president for voting him. You get so what happens is that the young person will go and get married using these resources. Those that are married will go and get a second wife. So how are you working with the minds of the young people to see that these results?
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
There's one in the back there.
Okay, 1, 2. Yes, sir?
My name is James Kubola from Nigeria. My question would be, how do you intend to overcome the barriers like government barriers and financial barriers? I understand we have a lot of plans to have people like development partners, but can you be honest with yourself? How do you intend to fund this project without maybe having this as a problem that you won't be able to accomplish?
Thank you. Last question, and then there are 5 minutes left for answers.
Okay, so my name is Leone. I'm from Ghana. My question is in regards to positive peace. From the layman, we all know that peace is the absence of armed conflict. So I want to find out what are some of the initiatives they are putting in place to ensure that people are being educated on positive peace. Thank you.
Yes, gentlemen.
My name is Christian Maboko. I'm from Kenya.
We can't hear you. Please raise your voice.
My name is Christian Maboko. I'm from Kenya and I'm an independent development consultant. My question is, what are you currently doing to support the water infrastructure within the Commonwealth region? Specifically because I've been working within the water crisis field and I've realized that water scarcity is one of the major issues that is limiting also, water supports 1.7 billion jobs around the world. And if you're serious about supporting young people and creating opportunities for youth in Africa, we really need to look at the important infrastructure, such as water availability. So my question to you, what are you currently doing to support the NGOs and organizations that are trying to alleviate the water crisis within the region?
All right, thank you very much. So, Honorable Minister, they had questions to access to funding and capacity building as to how we capacitate the youth and such, and then also in terms of diversification of investment, how do we ensure that the resources of the country are not in one basket in case something bad happens and then the economy is going to go into a doom, and then also youth representation across multilateral spaces. How do you ensure that there is adequate youth represented at the spaces, and how do you ensure that it's not the same people that are being recycled at different spaces?
What can the Canadian ministry do to support you guys?
That was yes.
Thank you. There are not too many ministers are goals. I have the pleasant task of answering all your questions. But I'll start from which can be Uganda, right? Luckily, I'm not here alone. I came with my deputy CEO of my National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Agency. My government is implementing a program called Emerald, where we are supporting young people with funding, but we are not just giving them the funds. So I'll let Jones allow us to speak to what we are doing, and we are not giving it to them as get them when they marry. So I'll let Jones speak to what we are doing differently and why we believe this time around is going to work. Because we are giving as much as $10,000 to startups, and if it is get them when they marry, then I'll marry again. Jones.
Well, so I think that we took lessons from Uganda, right? And we are doing something very different. So Ejumara basically means business owner. That is in the local language. And that is one of the commitments of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to young people, youth-led business. Now, what we are doing is that it is not just a funding package, but a total package for young businesses. We start from training. And this training takes them to every single thing that you need as a business person to be successful. Funding, how to manage your finances, how to balance your account, how to, it's a very comprehensive, training program. Now, we go through very robust, systems of selection. So when we open application, over 120,000 young people across the country applied. We assessed what they are doing to be sure that there are not people who are thinking that, okay, because I happen to vote for His Excellency, as a payback, I'm just going to collect money, go and add a second wife, or have more children. That is not what we are doing. So out of these, we took them to a system and selected only 10,000 of them. And this we spread it across the country. So every district of the country have, beneficiaries. And then we went through this training. After the training, the funding is just for 2,000 young people. It means that you need to prove yourself again. So here you go through a system. Now, the selection process and all that is not done by politicians. Training, selection, even the grant management committee is not politicians, but people who understand the ecosystem. We have professors from the universities across the country. We have the country director of the British Council. We have successful business men and women in the country who form part of this, so they understand the system. And when they see a business, and for instance, you come and pitch for your business, they'll be able to tell whether or not you're a serious-minded person for the taxpayers' money to be invested into your business. So that is the process that Ghana has gone through. And I can tell you, it's been so successful such that the feedback, from the business community is something that, all of us are surprised or amazed, And so based on this, you have a lot of successful business people in the country who want to partner with the government, for the continuation of this program. We have finished, we are at the funding stage. We started funding. And as we speak, this morning I was at the lobby and I was receiving messages from my CEO. Some of the young people who thought that they voted for the president and based on that, as a way of reward should be part, are just sending messages, calling, why am I not being part? But we have to let them understand this is how it is going. It is not like what used to happen in the past where monies are wasted and you cannot track. Then again, we are not giving these monies, at a go. We are using milestones to give these disbursements. And so if your business is at point A, by the time you get to point A, point 1, we want to see some metrics. Use those metrics, to give you the next steps, until we finish the disbursement. So this is how the system is in Ghana.
We are just not giving out numbers. We've also leveraged our venture trust fund.
Right.
What they are doing is the businesses that can be scaled. Venture trust gives you money in the form of equity and it helps guide your business.
Right.
And as the business grows along the line, it's either they'll sell their equities to you or you can bring in third parties or whatever. But we are just not giving out money.
Right.
If we were giving out money, I'm sure for money to take a second. Are you married?
No.
And what we've also done effectively, is that for we the politicians, we've taken ourselves out.
Yeah.
I was the youth leader that led my party for opposition. And the agency is directly under me. I'll end up giving money to everybody.
Yeah.
Because everybody saw my face and I asked everybody to vote for the same leader. Yeah. So I have taken myself off the ground scope. After I inaugurated, I didn't even take part in the selection of members of the ground scope. So I don't have any influence on anybody.
Right.
Because if we don't do that, we'll continue recycling failure.
Yeah.
And that is what we've done over the years. Now let me come to my friend from Liberia. Your question. Could you rephrase it again so that I can?
Just the same thing. How do we equip youth so that they receive better allocation?
Okay, so then I believe it's been answered.
Sure.
Then the lady at the back, she asked 2 questions. The first one was, could you help me out with I remember the second one very well. No, the second one was on infrastructure and why. I'll come to that one, but the first one
was about youth political participation.
Okay, so I will answer you from where my brother Ibrahim left off. If you remain in the kitchen, nobody will recognize you. And Ibrahim answered it perfectly well. Add value to yourself and make yourself relevant. First thing. 2, young people must seize the space. The conversation around the table has been about youthful participation. In some areas, it is very difficult to find young people even coming up. Not too long ago, I conducted a survey. My ministry is a bit young. So when I took over, I wanted to understand the youth ecosystem. So I got researchers to do surveys in some areas. One of the things I found out, and surprisingly, I was a bit disappointed with that, young people are not participating even at local governance levels, the lowest levels. For my country, I don't know about other jurisdictions. And so at the local government level, that is where our participation starts from in terms of politics, leadership. And to my surprise, I realized that even at that level, which was more community-based, it was the older folks that were participating. And so what we are doing as the ministry is we are rolling out programs to encourage many more young people to participate at that level. The second thing I'll also say is that those of us who have been given the opportunity, when we get there, we must leave the door open for those who come after us. Yes. We can only leave that door open when we distinguish ourselves in the offices that we are doing. My president has done amazingly well. For the first time in the history of Ghana, we have the most youthful cabinet ever. But that will change if we don't deliver. Yeah. There is a youth ministry. For the first time in the history, over the years, our ministry has been seated with sports, education. They keep throwing youth issues around. But when we were campaigning, we had what we call a youth manifesto. And a lot of the programs this government is running on is based on the Youth Manifesto, what young people put together. Then the ministry was created as part of the promise in the Youth Manifesto. Luckily, I'm here with three of my agency heads. Sally now is the deputy CEO for the Youth Employment Agency, very young. In time past, it will never happen. If she doesn't perform, she's shutting the door on the next person. Osman Ayariga here is the CEO for the National Youth Authority, the biggest organization that regulates all youth activities in Ghana. If Osman refuses to perform, it means that that door is going to be shut on future generations. And John, the lady who just spoke, is in charge of entrepreneurship and innovation, our startup agency. If she fails to perform, she shut the door on many other young people. When you come into this government, our key sectors, the oil sector, our biggest oil refinery is headed by a guy who's been there 30 years. His Excellency believes in it, commerce. When you go to the National Petroleum Authority, Ediji Tamako, another young lawyer. When you go to BOST, I'm speaking about energy sector, critical sectors of our economy. BOST is headed by a young man called Afichi, right? Yeah. These are all young people. If we fail to perform, what it simply means is that we are shutting the door on the other young people. And so it is up to us, those of us who have been given the opportunity, but all of us who have been given this opportunity did not sit at the back. We engaged and we took advantage, and that's why we are here. And so our encouragement is to young people to engage. If you are sitting on the fence, it will happen. Don't remain in the kitchen. Make yourself relevant, equip yourself with the right skills. But we as leaders also need to do more to hold the hands of those in the underprivileged communities and bring them up to speed so they can also become beneficiaries of whatever we are doing. And then on your second point, I don't know what we are doing right and what we are doing wrong. But like you rightly said, a lot of emphasis on sectors that gives quick returns. AI. Now every African government is speaking AI. Yes, we are doing the 1 million coders program in Ghana, but we are also doing what we call the National Apprenticeship Program, where we are training young people by giving them skills in areas that we feel are more relevant and technical. And earlier today, I met a group of young people and I was telling them that the jobs are not anymore within the formal sector. The jobs are in the informal sector. But what we've not been able to do is to encourage people to look within the informal sector. Because growing up, if you're bright, you are pushed towards grammar education. Go to school, become a lawyer. And so, three of us here, John is a lawyer, Osman is a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. If not for politics, I'm sure we would have all been unemployed. These are realities. A lot of us did not look towards TVET and STEM education. But that is where the real jobs are. And so we expect that a lot more investments will go into these sectors. What my president is doing differently is now we've seen that, yes, AI will give you the jobs. But when you use technology, you still need somebody to put the bolts and nuts together. All of us in this room, all of us in this room, the ladies have their hairs done, right? I'm not sure AI fixes your hairs for you. Somebody fixes it for you. That is where the real jobs are. Those of us wearing our suits, AI did not make my suits. AI did not make this fugu he's wearing. AI did not make my brother's fugu. Somebody had to weave it. That is where the real jobs are. The shoes we wear, AI cannot make them. And so we appreciate that the investments must go into those fields. And that is why we are doing the National Apprenticeship Program. We also see that the domestic care economy is another avenue where real jobs are created. AI cannot become your nanny and hold your baby for you. AI cannot cook that meal you want cooked for you. And so these are areas that we believe we must invest in. And so in my country, I can speak for my country, we are investing in those areas that you spoke to. I don't know about what others are doing, but platforms like this gives us the opportunity to advocate that a lot more investments must be looked and be put into those areas. And that is exactly what we are doing. Thank you. I think you have answered the questions that were the rest is for the
Thank you, Honorable, for doing that. I think we just have two to the CYC and then one to peace, and then we can wrap it up and take our picture.
Yeah, I think the time is actually up, and I don't know, maybe, but just briefly on the return on investment, I think basically, as I already mentioned, the volunteer program is being seen as young people are not necessarily being seen as a problem, but being seen as high-end solutions. And the whole idea is that it's service delivery, and these services that are being delivered by these young people actually have financial terms, are also can be quantified financially, because for whatever things that these young people will be doing would also be indirectly in some way providing some kind of service to government, which actually can also be quantified financially. And so for most of the countries that we'll be working with, and for the partners that will be taking on volunteers, would actually be working on tracking how much in terms of input for these young people, in terms of the service that has been given financially, what is the quantifiable metric for such inputs. Because when we are talking about young people stepping in, for instance, fixing teacher shortages, there is already budget deficits in terms of how much countries need to put teachers in classrooms to solve the issues about teacher shortages. If we are able to provide 5 youth volunteers to teach in a particular institution, it cuts down the budget deficits in terms of how much you need to get teachers back in classroom at that particular point in time. So financially, all the services that will be provided by these young people is also quantifiable. And so in terms of the return on investment, it's something that we've also looked at, but as I said, it depends on the context and the services that are being rendered, and we'll be happy to provide that kind of insight. In terms of how countries would support each other in terms of implementing this, we see the opportunity. Of course, the Commonwealth is a shared space, and in November we are having the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which is focused on partnerships and investments. And there as well, we'll have the Commonwealth Youth Forum, and we are looking forward to pushing this, and we are launching it now so that we can actually have conversations with all the governments, put this forward to them, and find countries that are interested. The target is to have at least 3 countries which would express interest for piloting. We are going to have the conversation as well with UNICEF already, and we have sent this proposal with them, and we'll be discussing whilst we are here in New York. Because UNICEF already has the Global Volunteer Initiative, and as I already mentioned, we are not looking forward to create a whole new thing. We are looking forward to plug onto already existing pathways, and so we are obviously going to learn from a lot of existing frameworks and be able to build up on them. And so we see that for most of the challenges, and that's also answering the barriers question, we are going to overcome them because we are not working alone, we are not developing a new thing, it's already taking on existing frameworks, and for most countries they already have national youth volunteering frameworks. I've had colleagues who are watching the live streaming reach out directly via my WhatsApp, asking me to send them also the presentation because their countries will be interested because they already have existing national volunteer frameworks. We are looking forward to plug onto those things. What the Youth Council exists to do is to amplify best practices and also make sure that we're able to sustain what is working already in countries, and for countries that things are not working, we can then be able to integrate and start some of these things there. So don't see this as a whole new framework that's financed totally by us. It's something that we are working together with member states, and for most of them, they already have some of these things already running. For those that don't have, we also have partners on board that will supplement it as well. So I think that basically summarizes.
Let me add on. Every program that you start, you definitely have issues. What I like about what the council is doing is the first step you take. And I believe all of us must give it the support it needs. I will make sure Ghana becomes the first country. That is the way to go. Along the line, we will solve the problems. But let's start. And this is what we need. And then on the issue of people in deprived areas, very important question. How do we address this? All of us here. It doesn't take the council alone. It is about how we can share information and get that information out so that people in those areas will have access to it. The only way we can do this is by engaging directly. We all come from different countries. Let's not sit in the comfort of where we are. Let's see how best we can also reach out. Let other people get to know about some of these opportunities. You'll be amazed that one word down there will spread like wildfire, and that is all it takes to get information across. Thank you.
The last question, I believe, is Sophie.
Thank you very much. I'm going to wrap it very briefly since we have come to the end of the program today. So if you take Saipan, we actually, with regards to the Champions of Peace program and the Positive Peace, is somewhat aligned with the IEP, Institute of Economics and Peace. We have partnered with them, and we are also making sure we don't just teach peace, we localize it in the communities so that youth, it is very relevant to the youth who are existing in the very communities, right? So just like Joshua mentioned, we are not creating something new. We are plugging into something which is already existing, which is our Peace Champion program, and also a program which is relevant to IEP. So if you really want to know more about it, we can have a chat about it after the program. I would love to. So that's about from Saipan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time and dedication to making this event a success. Please stay put. We are about to take our group picture. We'll be facing this way, so we'd like the Honorable Minister to please sit there next to the director on the chairs, and then the rest of us can then see. We can use some of these tables. We have some volunteers that are strong to please shift the tables